How would you feel if we could just try this out just this one time, babe, please?
I think it would probably indicate to me that my husband was involved in some perverse world, whether it was through pornography, that something else was happening on the side, because these aren't normal things that people just think of when they wake up.
So
like,
what's your next move?
Really like...
Why were you even on there? Why would you be looking at that filth? How could you? Hey guys, thanks for coming back to my channel. Today we're going to be continuing to watch the Candace Owens whatever podcast interview.
I'm going to show you another clip from this conversation where that same young woman, who I honestly felt like, and I never say this, that she was possessed by a demon. She really was. And she was growing frustrated in me remaining logical and explaining to her that obviously her career was going to follow her for the rest of her life. And she tried to, I guess, trigger me as she was explaining how she saves marriages. And she tried to trigger me by creating a what-if scenario regarding my own husband. Take a listen to her, and I do want to go ahead and put a trigger warning on.
I would be very surprised that people who do this kind of prostitution or OnlyFans, etc., they think that won't follow them at all. How do you think relationships work? Like, I'd be very surprised. They're like, oh, no effect, obviously, because, you know, that no one's going to care. I probably think what they would say is something like the man who I will be with will be okay with it. I think that's a fair statement because you will have to tell them, and a lot of guys won't be down with it. So, yeah, the man you will be with obviously will have to be okay with it. I mean, there's no choice.
She's really about to jump into her brothel mindset, I would say. Take a listen.
A lot of the perversion that comes, if you are not going to be acceptant with your partner, if he comes to you and is like, hey, I really like getting pegged, I want you to peg me, and you're like, ew, that's so disgusting, like, I would never do that. You want me to eat your I would never do that. Well then, okay, what are you going to do? Divorce him? Or what are you going to do? Realistically, I'm asking you I'm asking, hold on, I want to know, what are you going to do? That's your husband. He's like, hey, babe.
I think one of the things about marriage that's really beautiful is I know what my husband, before we got married, I think I know who he is.
But things change, and maybe he wants to start exploring.
He wants to start doing what?
He wants to start exploring, and he's like, oh my gosh, maybe I do want you to like eat my ass, and I kind of want you to peg me. Like I kind of want anal penetration from you because you're my wife and you're so beautiful and hot. And we're married and we have kids together, and I'm feeling a little bit kinky, and I with you, since we have this special marriage and bond, how would you feel if we could just try this out just this one time, babe, please?
I think it would probably indicate to me that my husband was involved in some perverse world, whether it was through pornography, that something else was happening on the side, because these aren't normal things that people just think of when they wake up.
So
like,
what's your next move?
Really like.
Oh my God, Candace. I guess she's kind of right, but she's also like annoying. They would never just think that. They would obviously have been involved in some perverse world. Like they've been on Pornhub and they've been looking at videos of pegging, and that's why they want to do it. And anyone who I would marry, I would be like, why were you even on there? Why would you be looking at that filth? Maybe that's true, or maybe they're just talking to their friends, and their friend was like, hey, this is what happened. And wow, it was amazing. And their friends involved in filth and then told them about it. I don't know. It could be. I mean, word of mouth things spread. Guys talk about stuff. But okay, fair enough. So the guy looks at a little online video and then he's like, hey, I would like to try this because maybe I want to spice up my life or I want to have a different experience. And you're like, just like, how could you? It's just... she's frustrating. It's like, well, why wouldn't you just have a talk about it? God, Candace.
A strap-on dildo.
Okay, right.
Well,
so what's your next move?
What's the ultimatum? He's going to divorce me.
You know what's going to happen? He's just going to hide it from you now because he sees how you acted, because I know she's married, and I don't know anything about her husband. I'm just saying, like, it doesn't even have to be her, but if a guy knows that his wife is going to act in that type of way and be like, oh my God, that's so disgusting. Like, how could he do that? He's involved in perversion and filth. Then they're literally going to they're going to know that. And they're like, well, I will never never bring it up to her. She makes me feel like I can't tell her what I'm talking about or how I'm feeling or things I want to try. And so now I got to hide that from her. And now what you're doing is you're setting up this weird dynamic in your relationship, and it's literally going to eat away at your relationship. And sure, this is small stuff, but over time there might be other things that you say and do that are going to eat away at it. But maybe she's with a guy who's like literally the most wholesome guy ever, and he's a good at prayers and going to church and whatever they do, and he never has, different things he wants to try, whether it's maybe he wants to try mushrooms, maybe he wants to try the sexual thing, maybe he wants to go I don't know, maybe not skydiving is a good one, but something else that's like risky, and she's like, how could you do that? We have a child. Like, he wants to do bouldering, rock climbing, and she's like, oh my God, don't do that because you could die. Like, it's just, okay. You know where I'm going with this. I just find it frustrating.
Me if I don't peg
so what's the next move?
Crazy. I would think that individual would probably need therapy and not the kind that you give.
Yeah, when I was saying not the kind that you gave, I was pointing to a woman that was in her 40s who said that she's a sex therapist and she sleeps with other women's husbands, and it actually helps their marriages. Yeah, so what was weird about that is suddenly it seemed like she was suffering from a demonic possession, like she was just a Chucky doll, and she was just trying to say the most perverse thing that she could possibly say to trigger me. I didn't feel triggered by it. I felt disturbed that a 22-year-old was even coming up with this concept.
Okay, I watched that, and it was just an edited clip, right? But it did not seem how she's portraying it. It didn't seem like they were coming up with this scenario, the most craziest, perverse thing ever to like demonically possess come at you. This honestly feels like some crazy religious talk right now where you're like, she's possessed. It's like whenever my mom hears things like about anything, it's like, oh, there's a gay pride parade. Oh, they're all devil worshippers. It's like, what? What? Like, it's always this extreme thing. It's just like, what? Just calm down. Okay, not everybody is a satanic devil worshiper possessed by demons and whatever. Again, this is another way for you to not engage with the conversation because you're labeling them as a demon. So it's like, well, I don't really have to answer this. God, I hate this. I hate it.
And I realized that her entire reality had been warped because she works in a brothel and she sees up to 10 clients per day. And you have to imagine that she thinks that this must represent what all men are like. It never occurred to her that actually she is seeing the most debased, pathetic men that are in this society today, right? She is seeing men that have drug addiction. She is seeing men that have sex addiction. She is seeing men that have gone so far into their perversions that they might actually be requesting this from her. It is not the average man that goes into a brothel. It is not the average happily married man that has these perverse thoughts. And yet she thinks that...
I would say it would be the average guy who would go into a brothel because it doesn't have to be married men, but it could just be like some guy who's like, you know what, I'm lonely, I'm looking for somebody, whatever. And sure, you can say they have mental issues, but the average person has mental issues. Like, literally, everybody has mental issues. I have mental issues. You all listening have mental issues. None of us have no mental issues or no baggages or whatever. We're not all sitting there like perfect. Like, we're just like, well, I am so amazing. I have nothing. I always have the best response to everything. It's like, no, we've had bad things happen to us in our lives, and we have reacted mentally and formed like mental pathways to deal with those issues a certain way. And sometimes those issues, when the way we deal with them, the way we built these pathways, are not the best ways. And so that would be a mental issue. The way she describes this, like, some people are just more adventurous. Like, there's people, like I said, who like rock climbing, who like literally bouldering. That's not the right word. Free climbing, sorry. They like free climbing where they don't even use equipment. They don't use like pickaxes and whatever. Right? I think they tie a rope or whatever, but it's like minimal level equipment, and they're like shoving their fingers into cracks in the rock and climbing up. Like, it's the most ridiculous shit ever, and they literally do that. So that's crazy. But some people are okay with this crazy risk-taking thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, people are different. People like different things.
That it's the norm. Her and this other sex worker think that it's the norm, and that therefore they are helping to save marriages because, well, it must be all men that want this. This is where society is going today, and this is why I spend so much time talking about perversity, talking about pornography, talking about the ills, not just of graphic pornography, which her mind is utterly polluted by because it's a form of her every single day. It's a facet of her every single day, but also the soft pornography that we have all become accustomed to. The pornography that we see when we scroll Instagram, and you have Instagram models with their butt cheeks and their chests out. This is the stuff that is desensitizing us, right? It is desensitizing all of us. We're all victims to it. I say this all the time. When I see an ad, I don't even flinch when I see a woman holding a purse and she's half naked, because we have become accustomed to seeing it everywhere.
This is like this typical, I'm going to say conservative mom. This is literally what it is. And I find this conversation a little irritating because it's, we went from like brothels and sex work, and then you just went to like women who are wearing bra and panties or something, or a bikini, and then advertising a handbag or whatever. And maybe, they're looking sexy in their lingerie or whatever they're dressed in. And you're like, this is what's wrong. Like, you just jumped from something that's like completely naked, people doing stuff together, to just wearing lingerie, and you're kind of like lumping them in the same basket. And it's just, I don't know how you win anybody with this. Like, you win the very small base that you're part of, like the 10% or 15% or whatever people who would align with that. But you lose everybody else because you're going to such extreme. But I think a lot of people would more people would agree with, like, look, people who are going and using certain services or whatever, or going to OnlyFans or whatever it happens to be, like, they probably have some other issues there that they could use dealt with. And you can make an argument for that, and that would be, I think, something more people would accept. But they're not going to sit there and say, well, you see a girl in lingerie advertising a purse, that's on the same level. Like, it's just stupid now.
And where is it leading to? Where it is leading to women that are quite literally prostituting themselves on the internet because they know that they can make a quick buck. And you can do that. It's true. I think later on in the show, after I left, one of them mentioned that they make $500,000.
Advertising things in a bikini or in lingerie does not necessarily lead to you doing like fully nude work in pornography. Like, this is so stupid. That's like saying because you smoke cigarettes, you're going to smoke weed, and because you smoke weed, you're going to do heroin. Like, no, it's not.
Dollars per year. It's going to come at a cost, obviously. If you want to make $500,000 and in your early 20s or in your late 20s, and then you're going to realize that nobody wants to marry you, nobody wants to have children with you, nobody respects you for the rest of your life, right? The possibility that you might be alone, that's deeply, deeply saddening.
I do agree with what you just said there, though. That does mark you for life, and it definitely lowers your chances, so you are risking things later on. Thank you all for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, I love you. If you haven't, I love you, but I love you less. It's like less. I still want to love you because you watched the end of the video, but it's less love.